The inheritance and discovery. The Wellspring Inn had stood on the outskirts of Charleston for over 200 years. To most people, it was just another crumbling colonial building desperately in need of renovation. To my grandmother, it was her life's work. To me, it became the key to exposing a family's darkest secrets. Another pipe burst. Janet Thompson's voice dripped with mock concern as she delicately cut into her filet mignon. How unfortunate. Though really, Emily, what did you expect from a building that's older than dirt? I gripped my water glass tighter, forcing a polite smile across the white tablecloth of Charleston's most expensive restaurant. These monthly dinners with my in-laws have become an exercise in restraint since I inherited the inn 3 months ago. Actually, we're making good progress with the renovations, I replied, feeling my husband Michael's reassuring hand on my knee under the table. The Historical Society's preservation expert says. Historical Society. William Thompson, my father-in-law, barked out a laugh that made other diners turn their heads. That place is a money pit, not a historical treasure. You should have sold it the day your grandmother's will was read. I thought back to that day in a lawyer's office when everyone expected Grandma Rose's pride and joy to go to my mother or my uncle. Instead, she left it to me, along with a cryptic note. You'll know what to look for, because you see with your heart, not just your eyes. The inn has potential, Michael defended, though his voice wavered slightly under his father's stern gaze. The Thompson family didn't believe in potential. They believed in immediate returns and quick profits. Potential for what? Janet scoffed, her diamond necklace catching the light as she leaned forward. To drain your trust fund? To embarrass the family name? The Thompsons are known for luxury high-rises, not failing bed and breakfasts. It's not failing, I said quietly but firmly. The bookings have actually increased since we started the renovation blog. People are interested in historic properties. People are interested in modern amenities and proper plumbing, William cut in. Which is why you should accept our offer. Thompson Development could have that land rezoned and developed into luxury condos within 6 months. Ah, there it was. The real reason for this dinner. I've been wondering when they'd make their move. The offer still stands, Janet added, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. $5 million is more than fair for that location, especially given the property's condition. $5 million for 12 acres of prime Charleston waterfront property. They thought I was naive, that I didn't know the real estate market. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last 3 months doing more than just fixing pipes. I appreciate the offer, I said, dabbing my lips with a napkin. But the inn isn't for sale. William's face darkened. Emily, be reasonable. You're not cut out for this business. The hospitality industry requires experience, education, like my degree in hotel management from Cornell, or my 3 years as operations director at the Four Seasons. I smiled sweetly. The degree and experience you both dismissed as playing and having a career before I married Michael. Janet's perfectly Botox forehead attempted to furrow. That's different. Running a luxury hotel chain is one thing. This relic of yours is. My grandmother's legacy, I finished firmly. And it's not for sale. The rest of dinner passed in tense silence, broken only by Janet's pointed comments about other historic properties that had been tragically demolished for progress. As we waited for the valet to bring our car, William pulled Michael aside for what I'm sure he thought was a private conversation. Control your wife, I heard him hiss. This stubborn streak of hers is going to cost this family millions in potential revenue. Michael, to his credit, stood his ground. Emily knows what she's doing, Dad. Maybe if you actually visited the inn. I wouldn't set foot in that fire hazard if you paid me, William snapped. Fix this, Michael. Or your position at Thompson Development might need to be reevaluated. The drive home was quiet until we cleared downtown Charleston. Then Michael let out a long breath. I'm sorry about them, he said, reaching for my hand. You know how they get about property development. I squeezed his hand, thinking about what I'd discovered last week during the renovation work. It's not about the development, Michael. There's something else going on. Your father's too desperate to get his hands on the inn. What do you mean? I smiled in the darkness. Remember last week when the crew knocked down that wall in the east wing? The one that didn't match the original blueprints. The hidden room? Michael turned onto the long driveway leading to the inn. Did you find something in there? Oh yes, I said softly, watching the moonlight play across the inn's colonial facade. I found exactly why your father's so desperate to demolish this place. And tomorrow, when the Historical Society's archaeologist finishes his report, everyone else will know too. The inn loomed before us, its windows glowing warmly in the night. To most people, it looked like just another historic building. But I knew its secrets now. I knew why William Thompson had tried to pressure my grandmother into selling for years. I knew why he'd sent architects to inspect the property a dozen times. And soon, everyone would know what the Thompsons had been trying to hide for the past 50 years. In my office, what used to be my grandmother's study, I pulled out her old leather-bound ledger. Inside, tucked between pages of careful accounting, was the note she left with her will. You'll know what to look for, because you see with your heart. She'd known. All those years, while William Thompson made offer after offer, my grandmother had known what was hidden behind that wall. She protected it, waited, and chosen her successor carefully. My phone buzzed. A text from the Historical Society's archaeologist. Carbon dating confirmed. Documentation complete. Press conference ready when you are. I smiled, running my hand along the inn's original wood paneling. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered. Tomorrow we set things right. Michael appeared in the doorway, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Want to tell me what's really going on? I took a glass, patting the antique sofa beside me. Sit down, honey. It's quite a story. It starts in 1964, when your grandfather bought the land next door to the inn. The grandfather Michael had never met. The man whose business practices had built the Thompson fortune. The man whose secrets were about to come to light. I opened my laptop, showing Michael the photos we'd taken of what we found in that hidden room. His face went pale. Oh God, he whispered. Dad's going to lose everything. I finished. Maybe, but that's what happens when you build an empire on stolen history. Outside, an owl called into the night. The inn's old walls creaked and settled, having kept their secrets for over 50 years. But tomorrow, those secrets would finally see the light of day, and the Thompsons would learn that some things are worth more than money, like truth, justice, and the power of patient revenge. The morning sun streamed through the Wellspring Inn's original colonial windows, casting long shadows across the antique hardwood floors. In a few hours, these halls would be filled with reporters, historians, and federal agents. But for now, there was peace. I stood in front of the hidden room, now properly excavated and documented by the Historical Society's team. Inside, carefully preserved behind that mysterious wall, lay the truth about the Thompson family's rise to power, and the real reason William Thompson had been so desperate to demolish this building. The press is starting to arrive, Michael said softly, coming up behind me. He barely slept last night after seeing the evidence. Dad's called 6 times already, threatened to disinherit me if we don't stop this. I turned to face my husband, seeing the conflict in his eyes. We can still walk away, I offered. Destroy the evidence, kick their offer, let the past stay buried. Michael shook his head, squaring his shoulders. No, Mom always said there was something wrong about how Grandfather made his money. She died never knowing the truth. We owe her this. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Harrison, the Historical Society's chief archaeologist. Carbon dating results confirmed. Documents authenticated. Everything's ready. Ms. Chen. Sarah, our new events coordinator, appeared in the doorway. The documentary crew is here, and Dr. Harrison wants to do one final walkthrough before the press conference. I nodded, taking Michael's hand. Let's make history. By 10 o'clock, the inn's restored ballroom was packed. Local news stations had set up their cameras, historians from 3 universities were examining their notes, and federal agents stood discreetly near the exits. In the front row, Janet and William Thompson sat rigid with barely contained fury. This is absurd, William had blustered when he arrived. A press conference about renovations? You're just trying to drum up publicity for this failing business. If only he knew. Dr. Harrison stepped up to the podium, his academic demeanor adding gravity to the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. What we're about to share will rewrite a significant chapter of Charleston's history. The lights dimmed as photos appeared on the screen behind him. The hidden room, the documents, the carefully preserved evidence that had waited 50 years to be discovered. In 1964, a significant collection of Civil War artifacts and documents disappeared from Charleston's Heritage Museum. Dr. Harrison began. The collection included personal papers from major historical figures, priceless artifacts, and most significantly, documents proving ownership of several major landholdings in the area. William Thompson shifted in his seat. The theft remained unsolved, and shortly after, several prominent Charleston families were forced to sell their properties due to suddenly missing documentation of their ownership rights. Dr. Harrison clicked to the next slide. Those properties were quickly acquired by a new development company, Thompson Enterprises. The room erupted in murmurs. Janet's perfectly manicured hand gripped William's arm. During recent renovations at the historic Wellspring Inn, Dr. Harrison continued, we discovered a hidden room containing the entire missing collection, along with detailed records proving who orchestrated its theft and why. The next slide showed ledgers, contracts, and photographs. In one, a young William Thompson Sr., Michael's grandfather, stood shaking hands with a man now identifiable as the museum's corrupt former curator. The collection was hidden here by the museum's curator after the theft, I said, stepping up to the podium. My grandmother, Rose Chen, discovered it years later, but instead of coming forward immediately, she did something smarter. She waited, documented everything, and protected it until the right moment. This is slander. William Thompson shot to his feet. You have no proof. Actually, interrupted a man in the back, holding up his FBI badge, we have extensive proof, including your father's detailed records of which properties were targeted and how their owners were forced out. William's face went from red to ashen. I'll sue you all for defamation. Please do, Dr. Harrison said calmly. The federal government would love to present this evidence in court, particularly the part about how Thompson Development has been fraudulently collecting rent on properties it never legally owned. The next hour was chaos. Reporters fired questions, historians examined documents, and federal agents quietly pulled William Thompson aside for a discussion. Janet fled the building in tears, already speed-dialing their lawyers. By evening, the story was national news. Historic Inn reveals 50-year-old heist. Major developer's empire built on stolen history. In my grandmother's study that night, Michael and I sat sharing a bottle of wine. What happens now? He asked, looking over the inn's grounds where news vans were still parked. The properties will be returned to their rightful owners' descendants, I said. The artifacts go back to the museum, and Thompson Development goes down in flames. There was a mix of sadness and relief in his voice. Not flames, I corrected. Justice. The company will survive, but under new leadership. Leadership that believes in building things, not stealing them. Michael nodded slowly. Dad's going to prison, isn't he? For covering up his father's crimes? Probably. For continuing to collect money from fraudulently obtained properties? Definitely. My phone buzzed with another news alert. Thompson Development Board announces emergency restructuring. Michael Thompson named interim CEO. I showed him the alert. Still think we should have taken their offer for the inn. He laughed for the first time in days. $5 million for the property that brought down an empire? No, I think we'll keep it. Good, I smiled, because I have plans for this place. Over the next year, the Wellspring Inn became more than just a historic hotel. We turned the hidden room into a museum exhibit, telling the story of Charleston's stolen history and its recovery. The inn's blog, which had once documented renovation updates, now shared stories of the families reclaiming their stolen properties. Janet Thompson eventually divorced William, claiming she never knew about the family's criminal past. She still sends the occasional email demanding we stop ruining the family name by giving tours of the hidden room. Michael transformed Thompson Development into Legacy Preservation Group, focusing on restoring historic properties rather than demolishing them. The company's first project, helping the displaced families restore their reclaimed properties to their former glory. As for me, I kept my grandmother's note framed in the inn's lobby. You'll know what to look for, because you see with your heart. She taught me that true wealth isn't built on stealing from others. It's built on preserving what matters, protecting the truth, and waiting for the right moment to serve justice. William Thompson had once sneered that I wasn't cut out for this business. He was right in a way. I wasn't cut out for his kind of business, the kind built on lies and theft. I was cut out for something better. The Wellspring Inn still stands proudly on the outskirts of Charleston, its history now richer than ever. Every morning, I walk its halls and remember my grandmother's patience, her wisdom in waiting for the right person to uncover the truth. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying something old. It's about preserving something valuable until the perfect moment to reveal its worth. And sometimes, the most precious things we can inherit aren't measured in money, but in the courage to stand up for what's right, no matter how long it takes. Epilogue. 1 year later, I found another note from my grandmother, hidden in a secret compartment of her desk. My dearest Emily, it read, "If you're reading this, then you've already found what was hidden in the walls." But that wasn't the only secret the inn has been keeping. But that's another story for another time. For now, the Wellspring Inn continues to welcome guests, share its history, and remind everyone that some things are worth more than money, like truth, justice, and the power of patient revenge served at precisely the right moment. After all, as my grandmother always said, the best stories are the ones that take time to tell.